Hello everybody and welcome to today's video! If you understand that reference, congratulations, you are cultured in the world of chess. I am sorry for any audio disturbances. I can't use my main microphone because my computer's a little bit jank right now and I have not yet got a new one. But yes, so I was trying to get back to 2100. I've been fluctuating between 2000 to 2100 for a while, and I got to play this this National Master, the Anomaly. They definitely weren't a Grandmaster. Hugh Sidley. And I want to go over our games, and the reason why I will share at the end, as I think it is really funny. Okay, so we will start with the first game. This was the wildest. I have not analyzed these games too quickly. I just clicked game review after just to see how bad we played. Okay, and this is the first game that we played, and I play e4. e4, best by test as they play, and now they play this weird move, d6. This is a move if you want to lose your National Master title. I play d4, the principled approach, bring out all my pieces, and now he plays h6. Now, as you can see, I don't have the greatest win rate against the perk. It's a weird opening, but play natural moves and you will be fine. Now, here I play f3, and the reason why I play f3 is because I want to stop knight g4. Knight g4 attacks the bishop, and I also want to prepare for a potential kingside attack after castling long with g4, h4. Oops, okay. Sorry. I mean, I guess the analysis bar spoils it a little bit. So, I play queen d2 now. Now, knight h3 is just a weird move, but it's because my knight doesn't have a better way to develop, but I preemptively go for this. Now, if you guys were paying attention, black plays this c5, a6, b5 maneuver, and now we are in something far closer to a Sicilian dragon. The differences being, though, there is no knight on c6. This knight never came out to d4 to trade, and oftentimes in those lines it goes back to either e2 or possibly b3. Both are candidate moves. I think even knight f3 in modern day theory is a candidate move there. But I go here, and now I am counteracting his bishop on this long diagonal. And I don't mind this so much because he's not going to castle probably into this kingside attack because it would blunder this pawn. So this encourages to castle short. I play h5, now trying to be very aggressive. Unfortunately, this allows the move g5. Now, what I was thinking in my head was, okay, if he plays g5, maybe knight h3, knight takes g5 here, and we get some attack. But unfortunately, those lines just don't work out. I mean, they might work out. So here, the strange move, queen a5 is played. Now, queen a5 is bad for several reasons. As a Scandi player, I hate to say this, but queen a5 in this specific situation doesn't make sense because we're not really pressuring this. I'm going to just sidestep to b1, so we're not going to play like b4 and win the pawn. Also, this kind of takes away the option of you being able to castle, because after king b1, if, let's say, castles instead, castles would be a huge blunder because of knight d5. And the point is, after queen takes, we do not take back the queen, but we throw in the intermezzo, knight takes c7, and the pawn hung, this will be hanging, and we're going to take, and white will arrive with a much better position. Instead, d6 was e6 was played, and unfortunately for me, while I was salivating at the thought of knight d5 at the right moment, I completely ignored and flubbed the fact that knight takes b5 essentially has the same idea. Knight takes b5, if queen takes d2, we throw in intermezzo, knight takes d6, and this only works because our bishop is interfering the queen's vision. After king e7 takes, if king takes knight, we have bishop takes f6, discovery, GG, lights out. Unfortunately, I am merely human, I did not see all that, even though it is a reasonable tactic to find in a 10-minute rapid game. Alright. Knight takes b5 was missed. Instead, I play rook he1, trying to goat him into wanting to castle kingside, because I simply did not see knight takes b5. And bishop f8 was played, and here knight d5 is the right move, and then we just trade, like the knight d5, queen takes d2, knight takes f6, knight takes f6, and it looks like they just blundered a juicer, but they didn't, because we have to take first, and now they can play e5 and shut off our attack. Or maybe not even e5, maybe there's a better move. Just bishop e7 instead. Yes. So I looked at knight d5 for a little bit, but I just decided to reroute like this. And now I am setting up a game of Chess 960, Fisher Random, as you can see against this National Master. Now all I have to do is play knight f2, knight h1, and I win the achievement for setting up a Fisher Random game. Unfortunately, I missed my chance here, as I very well could have played knight c1 and knight h1. Unfortunately, I forgot that I had the Fisher Random objective on, so I just keep on playing what I thought were the best moves. Now here I get this excellent knight on f5. Knight on f5, as Ben Feingold would say. Now here my opponent plays bishop f8, but now they simply lose the pawn. And white has a much better position now. Unfortunately, my opponent gets low on time. I get a little bit nervous because I realize I'm winning this game. I have a good position, but as you can see, he has no time, but time is evening out. Now, I panic here. I'm like, don't hang any dumb mate, don't hang any dumb mate, don't hang any dumb mate. And in this time scramble, I lose all my pieces, but I win on time. So, from a better position to a -7, but we still get the W. And I win with a modest 1.4 seconds remaining on the clock. Now, I almost don't want to show the loss, but we will go through all the games. Unfortunately, I did my Scandinavian dirty. Okay, so my opponent plays e4, which would be a brilliant move if it were not for the move d5, and I can't... Wait, I need to go to analysis board. Hold on a second. It's been a while since I've recorded anything like this. And I'm still recording, just making sure I'm not talking to myself. So, e4. This would be a good move if it were not for d5. Exclam. My opponent takes, and we go through the main line. c6 is played. And after e takes f6, actually what we have is something quite similar to if we played a Caro-Kann. So, in one of the Caro-Kann's main lines, you take here, knight f6, e takes f6, and now we have the Tartakower Caro-Kann. Now, you'll notice that the queen is on d8 in this position. The queen is on d8, this knight has been traded off, and the bishop is here. Now, if we compare and contrast that to the game continuation, the only difference, really, is that this bishop is on d2. So by playing queen d8, we basically get a Tartakower Caro-Kann, bishop d6, castles. There's many moves that are viable here. Now here, my opponent is trying to get cute with me. If castles, I was worried... If instead castles, which might be playable, what I was worried about was after bishop d3, you have to play g6. And this softens up the light squares a little bit, but after, let's say, a move like queen h4, black is completely fine. But I decide to refrain, and I end up playing this move knight d7. Now, knight d7 is not the most accurate move because bishop d3, now I can't castle. But my idea was simple. I'm going to get my knight to g6, make my king ultra safe, and then, at the right moment, I am going to castle. But I want to castle long, because I played Scandinavian, not a Caro-Kann, so I felt like this was in the spirit of the position. I played king b8, and my opponent makes a huge blunder somewhere around here. Yes, so after this move, bishop c7, black is winning. However, I completely flub it, and I miscalculated. I thought bishop h3 was a huge threat, but apparently after this move, bishop d5, we get basically what I wanted in the game, but much better. Because here, we can play queen h3, and mate is pretty hard to stop. Bishop takes c7, king takes c7, and try to find a move. Okay, queen a5, so what? Just king back to b8, and yes, you have to sacrifice the queen. Now, unfortunately, I saw the idea of trying to clear up the queen's diagonal by moving the bishop, but I did it the wrong way. You see, here, after he took my knight, black still maintains some chances to be better. But I have to play... After bishop takes g6, I have to play f takes g6. However, I did not find f takes g6 because... It's not because I missed bishop to e4. No. That is not what I missed. After queen to f3, I thought that I was simply winning. I didn't see a way to stop checkmate. Because after this, knight f4, I forgot that this came with an attack on my queen. You see, if I could play this, and they could not throw in rook takes queen, then black would be completely winning. However, I forgot this move existed, and I basically resigned. I got checkmated, but I pretty much had given up on the game. Now, I have to apologize to the Scandinavian, as it did give me a -5 position with the black pieces. However, sometimes you miss your chances. What can you do? Sometimes you find the right idea, but the wrong execution. Now, this game I remember quite well. This was an Alpine Sicilian game. Now, the funny part about this will come at the end, so make sure that you stay tuned to the end, because the last game, there is a little bit of a story behind, and it is really funny. Now, if you can see from these email bars that we both are playing very wild chess. So I play e4, they play c5. Now, most of the time whenever I'm playing Blitz nowadays, I used to be a person who only played the open Sicilian with knight f3, d4. Like, let's say knight f3, knight c6, d4. Now, I could play my old repertoire against a national master that I have not studied for a long time and promptly get smoked in one of the main line open Sicilians. But online, I usually play d4. d4, and after takes, there is this line c3. And this is called the Smith-Morra Gambit. Now, in the Smith-Morra, oftentimes, people who are too afraid to play the gambit will play knight f6, e5, knight d5. If you don't have to take immediately, you could play knight f3, which is a little bit more accurate, because here they cannot take because their knight would be hanging. And I'll turn off lines, okay? But anyway, so I play the Smith-Morra Gambit, but since it often transposes to Alpine, and the Alpine is a good recommendation by none other than Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky, which at the master level, this has a reputation for maybe being one of the safer, less combative ways to approach the Sicilian, but seeing as I'm playing a national master, and I felt like I had beat him in the first game. In the second game, I felt like I had a winning position. I hadn't checked because I just kept on rematching this guy. There wasn't any time in between. I played this c3 move, and now he plays g6. Now, if you remember, in the first game, he also played g6 and a setup where it looked like he was going to de-enketo his bishop this way. But he did not end up doing that in this game. Here I played d4, takes, takes. And what I want you to notice about this pawn structure is we have this pawn structure where the slice square bishop is out, so this is very reminiscent of a Caro-Kann. Now, in the Caro-Kann, usually you will play bishop f5, and you will not play g6, but rather you will play e6, and have your bishop patrol this diagonal. But this is all standard theory, and now he plays bishop g4, very good move. I don't know what the meta strategy is here. It is possible that maybe you are supposed to try to find a different move to not allow bishop g4, and instead try to get bishop f5 instead, but I didn't know all the nuances of this specific position, bishop b5, but I ended up with a very safe position. Now here I played bishop g5, which I played a little bit reluctantly. I didn't spend much time because I was still playing fast, but I remember thinking to myself, well, bishop g5, you always have to be careful, because in the Caro-Kann, queen b6 is you often want to play anyway. But I felt like it was a strong move, pinning the knight. Queen b6 was not played, castles. And at this point, I take, And I'll hesitate to call this damaging the pawn structure, but creating some imbalance in the position, which I was thinking maybe the c-pawn could be a target in the future. However, there is the slight problem that maybe, just maybe, c5 will be a strong move. I mean, it was a strong move the first time, so why not the second time? And rook b8, the open file, is here. So maybe I did something wrong in the opening. I'm not quite sure what I did wrong. But I trade off the bishop, I play h3, and here he plays this move, bishop f5. Now, bishop f5 is trying to flex on a non-title player. Hey, I'm a title player, how brave do you think you are? I knew bishop f5 was wrong during the game, as I was anticipating bishop takes f3, and not everything I anticipate is correct, but I knew that this was a bad move. And I thought it was a bad move because of g4. Now, apparently, g4 is not the best move. It still maintains advantage, but if this is right, queen d2 is a stronger move, just getting ready to trade off this bishop, more likely than not. And putting the rook here. Now, that being said, I'm not a computer. I'm not a computer, so unfortunately, after this, I do not find the move that takes him out cleanly, and honestly, I'm not good enough to understand why queen d2 is so crushing. But I play this move g4. My opponent plays bishop b4, I play knight takes e4, and I simply thought that he missed this move, knight d2. Now, apparently, this is a huge mistake, and I was supposed to play the very human knight h2 for some reason. But what I had calculated is that after knight takes e4, d takes e4, knight d2, unfortunately for him, he cannot take, as that would drop a knight here. And I was like, okay, this pawn is weak. The only realistic try he has to save it is this move f5. Which apparently isn't an inaccuracy, but I understood that after takes, I simply snag this pawn, and while this might be holding, it is a tricky position, I think, for actually both sides to play. Black has these super weak pawns on e6 and c6, which is unfortunate for him. This rook is a bit superfluous for the moment, but on the other hand, white has this isolated queen's pawn. And that is my extra pawn, so trying to prove something with it is going to be a little bit difficult. Rook f4 is played, I play this move f3. Now, f3 is just to solidify the knight. Now, what I suspect that I missed in this position is knight c5. I remember I looked at knight c5 before f3, but knight c5, I thought... Well, if queen takes... Maybe it's something with taking on e6. Do I take on e6 in this position? Yeah, I just take on e6 in this position. They take here. I probably want to take with this rook. And I have the open d line. The rook is under attack. And, okay, clearly white is for choice here. That being said, I was a little bit spooked during the game. I did not feel comfortable playing knight c5 and going into the sharp line, so I played f3, which I don't think is a bad move. It's just maybe not seizing the full opportunity. And here I play this move, rook f2. This is a very good move. It is multi-purpose. It unpins this pawn. It protects the b-pawn. And maybe in the future, I can even put this rook here if I need to add extra defense. And if I ever get my queen out of the way and have a rook on d1, I can write in my notation sheet r2d2, which doesn't give you any points, but it is a nice little detail for all of you Star Wars geeks out there. Okay, so queen b3 is played. He does not want to trade queens with me in this position, because if he trades after takes, this pawn is loose, unfortunately for him. I also have threats of going here. My rook is simply too powerful, and while we do damage my pawn structure with the extra pawn, and the superior piece activity, white should be much better. But after queen b3, he plays this excellent move, rook to d5. Now, rook d5 is a very nice move because along with threatening the queen trade, I was also threatening this. Now, I did not want to take because now he has a very healthy pawn structure over here, and he can maybe try to hold this position. I instead play this flexible move, trying to keep the tension king to g2. Now, king g2 is a move that relies on some tactics. After king g2, it looks like this pawn is hanging, but uh-oh, spaghetti-o. There is this move that apparently does not work at all. Wait, what? After this... Okay, well, I assumed that after... there is rook f8. Oh, I'm stupid. Okay, so if he had taken the pawn, I probably would have just lost the game. But, okay, so actually after this, I'm still much better, but with what move? I have no idea, because that's what I was thinking of the game. Oh, knight c3, putting more pressure on this pawn. And this is a little bit superfluous if you have to set up like this. Also here there would be knight e2. Which maybe I would have found it if I had to find. But I didn't think he was going to take the pawn anyway. And... okay, yes. Oh, also it is important to mention that rook takes is out of the question because of queen takes e6. That was my idea against rook takes. Okay, but queen a3 is played, I dodge out of the queen trade, and I play this excellent move, knight c5. Now, unfortunately for me, I do not go for the kill right here and put all my pressure along this e-pawn, which would have been very strong. But instead, I play the sloppy move, queen b3, hoping for a trade now. He plays king f7, which I have knight e4, apparently. Which makes his pieces awkward. Here he plays knight c7. His idea is that he wants to take here. And uh-oh, spaghetti-o, I lost the horsey. I play knight b3, and now I play this move. And we are starting to get low on time. This is now a blitz game. He plays knight f4, king g3 is played. We trade. We get into this endgame. I still think I'm a little bit better here, but it's very hard to say. I play this move rook c5, I take. And here, I apparently could have traded into a winning endgame. I do know about a blunder he made that I did not capitalize on, coming here shortly. So after this move, I thought that there was this move that I missed, winning the rook. Well, not winning, but winning in exchange. And I saw it as soon as I played this move, I had realized what I had just missed. I was very scared. I was like, okay, this is a time scramble, anybody's game. And here, I pause. I pause for 8 seconds as I see rook f6. Now, I see rook g7, but my eyes, they don't want to believe what I'm seeing. Did a national master just hang mate in 1? And the answer was, yes, a national master did hang mate in 1 against my rook and knight. So this was a super messy game. It was topsy-turvy, but only, realistically, white was ever better, except for a short period where black might have had a very small advantage. And the Sicilian is one of the strongest openings against e4, if not e5. And now we go to the final game. The very final game. And in this final game, spoilers, I have the black pieces. Now in the first black game, he played e4, d5, and I got a very good version of the Scandinavian. I have a feeling that my opponent realized just how lucky they got that I did not find bishop d5 and found the wrong plan to maneuver my pieces. So instead they switch it up with d4. And now, of course, my opponent is a national master. They probably have experimented with d4, e4, c4, knight f3. They've probably played everything. And here, against the National Master, I take a liberty that I usually do not take. Now, I do like playing the Benoni defense. However, knight f6 is the most accurate way to do it if you are not a Sicilian player. Because after c5, if e4, we can transpose into a Smith Mora. I do not play Sicilian positions, and I only really know this from the white side. Now, could I intuit it and figure it out? Sure, though trying to do that against a National Master would be really tricky. That being said, most National Masters are more solid. They don't transpose into Mora, and things in the main line that are not transpositions, I don't mind facing. So I took a little bit of a risk, praying that my opponent didn't play e4, which is why in my normal games, I'd usually start with this move knight f6. Knight f6, let's say knight f3, now I play this move c5. But I digress. So c5 was played, d takes c5, which is not the most popular move, and normally in the games that I play online, I play queen a5, bishop d2 is played, and then queen takes c5, knight f3, and despite not playing the Scandinavian, I have somehow managed to wrangle my queen to c5 within the first 3 moves. So, that is what I usually play. But I've talked to a lot of different high-level players, and one thing that they recommend doing is going for an approach where you play e6 to try to win the pawn back. Now, here I confused my move order as usually we play e6, knight f6, but instead I played knight f6, and then I played e6, which I do think is probably not the most accurate. And here we place this move, b4. Now, here I did not have a lot of experience in these positions, but from the Queen's Gambit days, I remembered, and I was kind of kicking myself because I was like, okay, if the knight was not on f6, and the same thing happened, if I could just get my queen here without losing a knight, this would be very vulnerable. So I play knight c6, I play knight d5, he plays queen b3, and here for the life of me, I do not understand why my opponent did not play this move knight c3. Or, not even knight c3, I thought he could also play this move bishop c3, he beat down the bishop pair, but also, he has the extra pawn. Now here I apparently can chuck away this pawn to try to open this up so he can't really take, and I can win back the pawn this way. But he did not play bishop c3 or knight c3, which I was expecting. Instead he plays this move e4. Now here I did an oopsie. I saw a free rook and I took it, but I could have just took here, and I guess he plays bishop c3, and he suffers a much worse position. I see e4, I'm like, I can take this rook, he takes here, I take here, and what I suspect my opponent missed, because I think they took about 30 seconds here, is I think in their original calculation, they thought I could not play e takes d5, and they were simply getting 2 pieces for the rook. Because they thought after e takes d5, there was this move bishop to c3. This is what I suspect was missed, but then in the game position, they realized that I had queen takes a2. I think that's what happened. But I take the rook, which, let me just tell you, I'm brave, because it's not clear at all that black is doing okay after this. But he lets my rook escape, my queen escape. I go here, I'm on her lines off to keep the human element to it. Bishop d3 was played. Bishop e7, castles. I'm just much worse out of the opening. Despite being up material, he takes here, which apparently is a huge... I'll say this, I don't understand. This is a huge blunder, and clearly I don't, because I just hang the advantage back. Maybe it is this move d6. Yeah, maybe d6 equalizes fully. But I play h6. Yeah, I play h6, queen b3. And here, my opponent plays this move, queen f5. Now, if this was one of my bros, I would say I played d5 here, and then they resign because, as we all know, en passant is forced, and you lose a queen. That being said, I felt like this National Master was not a bro, so I did not play d5 in this position, despite it being clearly the best move. I played g6, my opponent plays queen to e4. I'm clearly getting cooked here, but now I play this move d5. Now, I am objectively losing here, but I felt like this was my best practical chance, trying to activate all my pieces. My opponent makes the wrong choice, he cowers away, then I blunder back. Blunder. He plays this move knight g5, and I thought this was about... Probably what I should have done is takes, and now knight e4. This is probably a little bit better, but I was worried about these weak dark squares along my king, so I did not seriously contemplate trading it. Now, he played this move, I took here, and now my opponent plays a huge blunder. And, I mean, well, we kept on blundering back and forth. I mean, you would not know this was a game between two people who are nearly 2100 strength. Now, my current rating is around 2030, but I've been 2100. I can compete with these people. He plays this move, bishop, okay, this is not such a huge blunder, but after it takes, he plays this huge mistake, rook takes e6. Now, what my opponent had missed is that after rook takes e6, continuity, this rook used to be guarding this knight. This means that I can play bishop to f6, which is what happened in the game, and he can not take here because, he loses his knight. And while it is not back rank mate, he is going to suffer in this endgame, down a piece. So I find this very strong move, bishop f6. He plays this nice move, and I offer the queen trade. He does not want the queen trade now that I am up a piece. I go here. He takes here. And since this is a natural master, I find this nice way to simplify, where I take here, here, and after this move, h3, the queen trade is forced. I get to get into this rook versus bishop endgame, and I was already thinking in my head, there is absolutely no way this could be a fortress. First off, all my pawns are on dark squares. He has pawns on both sides of the board. My rook is currently dominating the king. I should simply be much better here, if not outright winning. And I already knew it was impossible to lose this at this point. Now here I attack the pawn. I play king to e6. He brings his king. I check him. And now that he has committed his pawns here, there are even instances, I think now, where trading the rook for the bishop might be winning. Now, he didn't give me that opportunity, but now I have all the perfect setup. He blunders a pawn here. And just give me a second. Okay. Still recording? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so I push the pawn. He goes to chase it. And here, this is not even close. And if this National Master had any respect for me, even though this was a topsy-turvy game, after the move g5, this game is simply lost, and there is nothing he can do. As I promote, I take his final pawn. I play this move b5, he queens, and then I promote to a rook. Now, you might be asking yourself, why would you promote to a rook here? You only have a minute on the clock, your opponent is a National Master. A queen advantage basically secures victory. Yes, you are completely 100% right, I can't dispute or argue against anything that you are saying. That being said, I've played a lot of Blitz in my time, and playing a lot of Blitz, I am very confident with a full minute on the clock, I will be able to checkmate a lone king with just a rook just fine. Maybe even easier than with a queen. Okay, maybe not easier, as it does take more moves. But I simply convert this. He does not really put up much of a fight here, as he's basically pre-moving his defeat, and then he times out. Now, interestingly enough, I want to hit rematch again. I smell blood in the water, and if I beat this guy one more time, I will get back to the rating of 2100. Now, unfortunately for me, once I hit the rematch button again, it said, you cannot play against this player because you are blocked. Now, I can only speculate as to why this National Master blocked me. Is it because I won 3 games, whereas he only won 1 game? I will say, out of the National Masters I've played, this is probably the weakest I've played, but even the weakest National Master is still very strong, so Hugh Sydney, if you're watching this, I think that we both played some very good games, but they just were very messy. Now, it could be that this 2100, he thinks, okay, listen, a person outplaying me in the Alpine Sicilian where I hanged maiden one, fine, but a person playing me in the Benoni winning like this, I don't know. Now, the only explanation I had since he blocked me right after this game is maybe, just maybe, he thought it was disrespectful that I promote it to a rook. That being said, if you're a National Master and you are playing anybody that is above 1500 rated, if you care about playing a respectful game, after rook takes f5, you find the resignation button. Not f5, f4, sorry. So I don't know why this person blocked me. But as you can see, this is a title player. He's been on the site since 2014. No, I would block him back, but I have a policy where I will only block people who I have a perfect score against, and unfortunately, while I was winning in all 4 games at one point, I did lose one. And as you can see here, I can't chat with him, I can't add friend, I can't follow. Whereas if we look at anybody else's profile picture, you will see there's gift, challenge, message, etc. Also, this guy apparently has 7 wins on me, that's sad. Oh, they're 2400. That makes sense. Even if we go to somebody like, let's say, Hikaru. They're a title player, and I can read their bio, I can follow, I can explore games, I can do more, I can challenge, add friend, etc. So, people in the chat, or not chat, people in the comments, sorry, I'm used to streaming. People in the comments, I simply want to ask you, why do you think this person blocked me? Was promoting to a rook too far? What are your thoughts? Anyway, I'll let you go. Hope you had a fun one. Peace.